notification. This hearing is being recorded in accordance with the requirements of the open meeting law, broadcast over the Lunenburg Public Access. I'll introduce the members. This is Lisa Normandinch, the board secretary. I'm Al Gravel. This is James Bezikoski, Hans Winthrop, Paul Doherty, and Sheila Lumi. Lisa will read the application, submitted communications. The applicant will have the opportunity to comment on the application or submission of additional documents. You'll please come forward to the mic, give your name and address, and board members will have the opportunity to ask questions they might have on the application while you're at the mic. There will be a public comment period. Again, if you would like to comment, you please come forward to the mic and give your name and address, and please address all comments and questions to the board. The board will go into deliberation, and there are required findings for any special permit, and they are that it will not be injurious or dangerous to the public health or unduly hazardous because of traffic flow, congestion, danger of fire, explosion, or other reasons. 2, that it will not have a material adverse effect on the value of land and buildings in the neighborhood or the amenities of the neighborhood. 3, that it will be operated with reasonable regard for order and sightliness if in open use. And 4, that it will not produce noise, vibration, smoke, dust, odor, heat, or glare observable at the lot lines and amounts clearly detrimental to the normal use of adjacent property. And with that, I would ask Lisa to please read the petition.
This is an application for a special permit, Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 40A, Section 9, Zoning Board of Appeals. The name and address of the applicant is Carlos Bismarck Terrero of 85 Canton Street in Fitchburg, and does business as National Motors. The undersigned hereby makes application as follows: seeking a special permit to sell 50 automobiles. The proposed action has not begun. The basis for this application is found in the following section of the Lunenburg zoning bylaw, Section 4631J. Street address of the property is 40 Summer Street in Lunenburg, assesses map 115, parcel 7. The name and address of each holder of legal title to the land which is the subject of this case is Kelly Brothers LLC, 36 Summer Street in Lunenburg. And the deed is recorded in the Worcester Northern District Registry of Deeds, Book 6751, page 245, and recorded June 30th, 2008. If the undersigned has any knowledge of a prior appeal, application, or petition concerning the land or building involved in this case, describe the case and the dates involved. In September 2009, Valentine's had a special permit for 20 vehicles. In February 2011, Best Auto had a special permit for 20 vehicles. And in May 2012, Double Down Inc. had a special permit for 50 vehicles. They have answered the special permit questions as follows. The question was, will the proposed action be injurious or dangerous to the public health or unduly hazardous because of traffic congestion, danger of fire or explosion, or other reasons? The reply, absolutely not. As a responsible business owner of a used car dealership engaged solely in prudent business practices with a good neighbor policy, there is no scenario whereby the public would be exposed to an unduly hazardous situation. B, will this action have a material adverse effect on the value of land and buildings in the neighborhood or on the amenities in the neighborhood? B, no, the purpose of this property is as a used car dealership is consistent with the lot's history and character of the neighborhood. C, will the proposed action be operated with reasonable regard for order and sightliness of an open use? C, yes, all operations will be consistent with prudent business practices, including a good neighbor policy. D, will the proposed action produce noise, vibration, dust, odor, heat, or glare observable at the lot lines in amounts clearly detrimental to the normal use of adjacent property? The reply, absolutely not. The actions described in this section are clearly not consistent with the town's guidelines or my policies, and therefore would not be allowed. And that is signed September 27th by Carlos Bismarck Terrero of 85 Canton Street in Fitchburg. There is a letter attached from Kelly Brothers LLC of 36 Summer Street to other property and landowners of 40 Summer Street, and they hereby authorize and permit Carlos Terrero to apply for a special permit through the town of Lunenburg for the proposed use of the above location. And that's signed Michael P. Kelly and Peter M. Kelly on 8/24/17. There is a a map showing where the cars will be parked on the lot, and the assessors map and a list of abutters are included with the assessors field card. And that's all, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Lisa.
You're welcome.
And with that, I would invite the applicant, if he would like to continue to speak to it, to come to the mic and,
My name is Carlos Torrero.
did you want to clarify, or? I'll say right up front, I know this isn't to scale, because if I wanted to buy this car, I don't know how the hell you'd get it out of there. So, I'd just like to maybe you could clarify some of this, the actual size of the area. I know that you put some of the dimensionals over here, what they would be, 9 by 20, I believe. Then I'm assuming that's each car space, but if you could redefine this area, because you certainly couldn't park them the way you have them on this.
Let me try to help. My name's Aaron Cosgrove. I'm a friend of Carlos. Carlos had some dental work done a little bit earlier, so I'll try to help out.
Okay.
Carlos has been buying cars professionally since 1995. So while you're looking at a retail operation, there'll be a number of dealers that'll be buying cars as well, wholesale. So you may be looking at the first two lines, and on the side, sold cars, retail sold cars, and then you're going to have other cars that dealers are going to be buying up and picking up from Carlos. So to your point, you're quite correct, but the car in the middle of the pack is not going to be something that's readily accessible, but these are primarily going to be cars that were purchased that other dealers will be buying. And then you're looking at the top two lines, and as the business progresses and you have more retail business, that can change. But right now, where he's been buying for, I think, for Mohawk for what, since 90-something, 95 or in there? It's been a long time. So a lot of those old dealers are going to be coming back to him to buy their vehicles. That's what he does. He's a buyer. And to your point, there won't be a retail access to that. You won't have people coming in and saying, get me that car in the middle.
So you'll have two
possible.
separate sections?
Yeah, well, I wouldn't call it a separate section. Just common sense would put you on the rear side to have cars that are going to be primarily dealer cars. For example, if you're a dealer in Shirley and say, hey, I need this, that, and the other thing, Carlos goes and gets this, that, and the other thing. You're going to put that in the back. That isn't to say that a person could come in and say, I like that car. That's possible. Obviously, you're going to have to work to pull that car out. But that's not something that's going to be primary. So you're looking at your first two lines, maybe three lines. Everything else is going to be primarily for other dealers.
Okay, so could you still define that space then, where you're gonna use that? As far as square feet or area, or?
I want to make sure I
In
understand.
other words, I wanna know how I know you're after 50 cars. And, so I'd like to know, you've got the majority of cars here. And I'd like to, and you've got 4 spots for customer parking.
Right. And your last 3 lines, so as you look at this from the Summer Street side going down, you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 rows. So you're looking at the last 3 rows that are primarily wholesale. The first 2 lines are primarily retail.
Okay. So it still doesn't define what I want, but that's okay. At that, I will open it up to the rest of the board.
I have a question. What type of signage do you plan on putting on your lot?
Well, it's going to be basic, straight to the point.
Okay, definitely.
What are you going to add any, just on the building, or are you putting up any?
Right now on
extra
the
signs?
right now on the building would be adequate. There's a number of restrictions you have regarding signage. So within that framework, down the road a little bit, yeah, then something that would be appropriate. But right now, the building is fine.
There's one.
Yeah,
There's a sign in the street
Okay.
here.
I'm sorry.
Did you want to elaborate on the last question?
There's a sign in the street here. On the sign on the street here.
Oh, anything that's pre-existing, that's a sign on the street, that obviously would change the fascia to reflect the current ownership. But other than that, the building, Down the road, things grow, we come back, ask for permission, and if it's granted, then yeah, then we could do something else.
Okay.
All right, well, usually we try to save the down-the-road steps, so if you have a request, now would be the time to do it, so you don't have to come back down the road. 50 cars, all right, I understand some's gonna be wholesale, some's gonna be retail. That sounds like a lot of coming and going, so when will you be loading and unloading these vehicles? That'll all be off-street, it'll be on the property? That would be kind of one of my big concerns. You're gonna have, multi-haulers come in, they're gonna be able to fit on the property to unload, and then reload, how will people pick them up, that sort of thing.
Okay, that's a good question. In most cases, you don't need that. Having multiple plates, say four dealer plates, so you have people out picking up the cars and coming back. So it's not gonna, that's not a real problem, because we're not using the big haulers that you see coming up with the, 10, 12, 15 cars. We don't really need that. But if somebody had to pull in and make the turn, they could. We don't really need that, but it could be done. It's not that it's impossible, it's just that it's not particularly needed. So if you're using 4 plates and you got 4 people, you got 3 buyers out there running to Carlos, pick up this, this, and this, and you have a plate, come back. You just use a runner.
See, I guess the way you're explaining it, so these aren't speculative bids, you're buying these for a specific customer?
Sure. There's also what we call a T1V ordering system, where a person can come in and look for a specific vehicle. That doesn't necessarily come from a local auction, that could be anywhere. T1V is cyber. So if you wanted a Bentley, that could be done. If you wanted a Ford Escape, that's fine. So we'll find it, and sometimes you can do that direct from an auction to the customer. You don't actually ever need to touch a lot. But that's all done through the computer. Phone, computer. That's a different type of sales. That's a different level. All you need is a computer system, somebody knows what they're doing, and the buyers. The customers come. That's T1V ordering. That's a separate issue. So you don't necessarily have to have the cars there to do the volume. A lot of this is wholesale for other people. He already has relationships with other dealers where he buys for now. So that just comes into play. The difference is just using the experience for himself.
Right, my experience, at least since I've been on the board, is we've seen a lot of applications where people will come in and get an application for this type of business. They need the business address to get the license to go to the auction. So in reality, they never bring the vehicles on site that they propose in the first place. It's more, they're sold before they even get to the site. So is this the case of that? Are you actually going to do retail business here?
Oh, absolutely, yeah. Yeah. If it was the other way, this would be a...
the car's going to go to the shop first before go to the dealer.
Oh, sure, yeah. What Carlos is trying to elaborate on is that all vehicles, regardless of what the scenario is, they all go through a safety check first, which everybody would agree is the prudent way to do business. To your point, you're not going to have a situation where the person is engaging this system just to get to the auction to get a vehicle for himself, for example, for a private sale, that type of scenario. This is commercial. So it gets a little more involved. 50 vehicles is a lot more than one. That doesn't necessarily mean that the day that you grant the license, there's 50 cars on the lot. It doesn't have to go that way. So you as a dealer might call up and say, I need this, this, and this. And as you know, the market fluctuates, especially in the wintertime. So you're looking at the 4x4s in the winter, you're looking at the convertibles, the coupes in the summer. So depending what the market calls for. Right now the economy is in an upbeat, we all know that. So business is pretty good across the board. You're just trying to take advantage of it.
And where do these safety checks take place? There's a lot of rules as far as repair work done on site and storage of,
Sure.
non-repairable vehicles and trash, junk, that sort of
This law
stuff.
would not accommodate that type of work. So you would use people, you've got Dr. Otto, for example. You have another guy in Lunenburg, I forget his name off the top, he has an inspection station and a reasonable rate. So those are an example where a car would go to. They would go through the process, the safety check, tires, whatever else is needed, and then come to the lot. So it might come to the lot first, but then it has to go down to them. And that's why I need the 4 plates.
All right, last question, your hours of proposed business? What hours do you plan on being open?
9:30 to 6:30.
Monday to Friday, Saturday?
7 days.
This Saturday would have to be at least the
Sat-
morning.
Well, we encourage you to ask for more, even though you're not there, just because you're saying you're gonna be there
Saturday is gonna be.
8 to 6, doesn't mean you have to be there. Same thing with Saturday, but better to ask for more now than have to come back
Okay,
later.
well, given that point, then let's say 8 AM to 8 PM.
I mean, you would cover yourself that way. That would be my recommendation. so.
Okay, thank you for mentioning that, yeah.
All right, I'm all set, Mr. Chairman, thank you.
Thank you, Paul. Hans?
Mr. Chairman, I only just have one question. So I think back to the chairperson's question originally about the 50 cars, or more specifically, the 40 cars at the lot here. I mean, did you, not that I don't take you for your word, but usually did you guys go out there and measure that and, you know, when you're talking 20 feet by 9 feet per spot, did you go out there and measure that, or did you take this off a prior application in terms of when we,
Yeah, there was a prior application.
on the
that-
50?
Yeah, on the 50 that showed that adequate parking for that.
Okay,
This is what we call in the industry stacking.
right.
So-
But that's what you used as a basis to
Correct.
put the 50 on the
Correct.
lot, was from the last application that we approved?
Correct, correct.
Okay, that's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
I didn't have any questions.
Okay. I'm just looking at this. What are you going to do in the winter? Where are you going to plow all your snow? Where are you going to move these cars and plow snow?
We're gonna move it to the side, to the right side. We're gonna plow to the left side, behind the building.
Okay. So you move these over, plow
Exactly.
everything,
We put
then
'em-
move them?
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
A lot of cars
It's
to
a lot of
move.
work,
Yes.
Huh?
a lot of work,
It's a lot, that's what I was,
especially with bad winter, yeah,
Right.
that's the downside of the car business.
one thing I'm going to do, I'm going to read it now because they were talking about some of the conditions. And what I'd like to do, I'm going to read you conditions that are on most, in fact, all used car lots. And I'm going to just go down quickly. Cars must be placed 20 feet from Summer Street. That's, and we require all the setbacks, okay? A limit of, in this case, 50 cars may be displayed for storage, sales, and employee parking. Those vehicles that are for sale shall be ready and maintained for inspections as required by the Registry of Motor Vehicles. All loading and unloading of vehicles is to be done off-street for safety purposes. No parts, materials, or tools shall be displayed or stored out of doors. No junk, as the term is hereafter defined, shall be stored or maintained out of doors. As used herein, the term junk shall mean any work out, cast off, discarded articles or material which are ready for destruction or which have been collected or stored for salvage or conversion to some other use. The business hours for the car lot will be, as you said, 8 to 8, Monday through Saturday. Is that correct?
No, it's gonna be 9:30 to.
No, the gentleman was,
That's
Paul
it,
here
that-
was quite
8:30.
correct. Yeah,
Okay.
yes.
That's correct. And Sunday,
That would have to be by appointment only.
by appointment only. Okay? 7, the petitioner shall conduct business at all times as not to be offensive to the residential abutters. I know there are some residents. The granting of special authorization shall ensure to the benefit of the applicant and shall cease in the event the business is sold or sublet to another party. The permit will be subject to periodic review by the Board of the Zoning Enforcement Officer if the restrictions noted as part of this granting of this permit are not adhered to, or if operated in any way offensive or detrimental to the neighborhood. This board would ask the enforcement officer to begin the procedure to rescind the permit. The petitioner shall abide by all requirements of the Department of Public Works in the town of Lunenburg and the state of Mass with respect to ingress and egress at the property. The petitioners must comply with the town of Lunenburg bylaw regarding signage, and any lighting shall not be offensive to abutting properties. And those are the conditions that when they make a motion, I would add to that motion. And with no more further questions to yourselves, I would invite, I see Gary is here, he is a building inspector. I would invite him up to speak at this time before I call for the public.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, Board. This property, as you've indicated, has had Class 2 licenses there for quite a while. And as you indicated on your decisions in the past, there is a condition that says they have to be 20 feet from the property line of the street. Recently, we had an experience out there where we were trying to enforce your condition. When we went out there, there are no markers to give us any indication where 20 feet was. The only way we were able to do it in some remote way is we went to the pavement and I took a tape measure to measure it off the pavement. Well, that's not where the layout of the street is. The layout of the street is somewhere else. When we asked the person who had the dealership at that time, where is it? I don't know. We just, at the time, majority of the cars were parked in that area. I would recommend that you consider that they should have some type of permanent barrier set at the 20 feet. It could be something as simple as bollards with a chain between it, and that should be located or established by a land surveyor, so that the cars we know that won't be, are a little more difficult to be out there. Because the first tendency with 50 vehicles is let's see how close to the street we can get so we can get more maneuvering space in there. 20 feet's the width of the length of the car. It's creating an issue, and I would recommend that the board consider that if you want to continue with the 20 feet, which obviously is one of the requirements of within the zoning bylaw. And it's all paved. It's not like it's landscaping out there. This whole thing is this wide open pavement. So I would just ask the board, consider that as a potential condition. If you feel that that is beyond, I can also bring that, because this requirement is also going to be heard, this request is also going to be heard in front of the planning board as part of a site plan. That's one of the requirements of the zoning, so I'll be requiring them to go forth to them, and they were aware of that. That may also be looked at there, but I would, again, suggest the board consider that as a potential condition.
And are you just suggesting 20 feet from the street as measured, some sort of a barrier?
The 20 feet from the property, the front property line, because again, the pavement itself and the layout of the street are quite often not the same thing. The pavement's
Of the
somewhere.
actual property line?
Where from the property, that's what the zoning bylaw provides for.
And is that a unique case just on Summer Street?
It's everywhere.
Yeah,
The 20
that's what I
feet
was-
back is a requirement everywhere for that.
No, I meant the street definition, trying to figure out where it is. Is that an issue throughout the whole town?
Trying to locate the street can be a challenge, and only a surveyor can really establish that, and then they go out and set some type of stakes to locate that. But you can't go out there and say, okay, it's 8 feet, the pavement's 8 feet off the property line. It could be 8, could be 6, could be right on it, could be 15 feet. There is no set dimension.
Okay.
It all depends on where that pavement is and where they've established the pavement over the years. I have no way of knowing when I go out there where that property line is to
Right.
set that 20 feet.
Okay. So we could actually condition that in, that it's 20 feet from the property line.
And I'd like to say, it can be as simple as bollards with a chain. That's fairly inexpensive. If the board wanted something more, more fitting to an area, maybe not, like, could be landscaped, any of those things so that they can make it, but that, I would leave that determination, whether they should be there or not, up to the board.
Okay.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, could I ask the building inspector a question, please?
Of course you can.
Yeah, so my understanding anyhow, Mass State law, it's 20 feet from the center line. The road's 40 feet wide, 20 feet from the center line is the width of a road in Massachusetts, is that correct?
No.
No, it's not.
It can be that, but layouts are different widths in town. It isn't always set as one. Each one can be different. You can't go by the center line of the street. I've seen too many cases where, it is wherever the paving company paves it historically. Sometimes it's right in the center of the layout. I don't know what the layout is out there. And I've seen a lot of places
That's
in
kind of the
town.
point I was getting at, was
I don't-
basically, I know when we started with the development on where Whalen Park used to be, try to
Okay,
determine
yep, yep.
who owned Lakefront Ave, the
Yep.
developer owned it, did the
Sure.
town own it? Guess what we determined? It's undeterminable.
And-
So I'm
okay.
wondering if perhaps the center line of the road and where the actual width of the road, that's been there forever, can it actually legally be determined where the road ends, where the property line starts? Are we gonna make somebody, an applicant, spend thousands of dollars on a surveyor to determine, well, in fact, here's a property line, but guess what, it's halfway out in the road? But we don't know where that, once we uncork that bottle, we don't know where that's gonna go.
Okay. I haven't had any, you've had a different experience than I've had with layout of streets. I haven't run it across that they don't know where the layout is. I haven't run across that. I've always relied on the surveyor to make the best determination he can. That's the only experience I've had with him.
Haven't they laid that road out? I mean, this proposal now for the three towns to reconstruct that section of road from Leominster through Lunenburg to Fitchburg line. And it was just, I thought, a matter of money, so that must not all be laid out by the state. Isn't there some plan you could
It
pull
very
up
well,
and?
it very well could have, but doesn't mean that the pavement is in the center of the layout.
Oh, no, I understand that, but I'm just saying you could use what must
There-
now be
usually
accepted
there's-
as,
yeah.
and then go from there, I would
Yes,
think.
yes. And that's usually the experience I have. I just go to the surveyor, say, you got to make that even with, every single lot in town that I deal with, we rely on the land surveyor to find what the best monuments he can and work off of that to come back to where that property line is. Even though, like you say, there's some places in town where there is no real, there's some stuff that's really shaky.
An applicant that.
The street's in the middle of the lot.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, we've run into a little of that, but on something like Summer Street, I don't think that should be an issue there. At least that would be my opinion.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Mr. Inspector.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, I'll ask the board if they would like to add that as a condition, 20 feet setback from Summer Street via the property line and put up a type of, some sort of barrier
So the only question,
as recommended.
the only question I have with that, Mr. Chairman, is that I think it's an undue burden, could be an undue burden in terms of cost to have that land surveyor come out there and do that. I mean, I think, between the applicant and the building inspector, if they can come to an agreement on where they think 20 feet is and if it's reasonable, then perhaps the applicant could come back with some type of barrier, whether it's even those concrete barriers they put on the ground to prevent the cars from going forward, like you go into a strip mall. I mean, something as simple as that, aligning the 20 feet and clearly delineating where the 20 feet setback is, I think is prudent. I just don't want the undue, if it's a small business owner, the land surveyor could be a lot of costs. I think the other approach by just working in conjunction with your office and you're being satisfied that perhaps the 20 feet is where you think it should be. I have no
That
problem
sounds a reasonable
conditioning that.
condition to me,
Yeah.
right, exactly, if the building inspector and the applicant.
Yeah,
Okay.
if he's
Well,
agreeable
Come to
to
an
it.
agreement.
And I agree with that. If they can I think they could reach a
I
reasonable
would think so,
decision.
right.
I guess the question is, do you want some sort of a barrier there to define it?
Well, I got no problems with whether the Jersey barriers or some sort of, something that delineates that. I personally have no problem with that.
Okay, all right, so I think we'll condition that there be some sort of a barrier.
To be determined between the applicant and the
Right,
building
at a
inspector.
20-foot setback as determined with the building inspector.
That would work for me, Mr.
And we- yes,
I would think a simple tape survey would not be that expensive. And knowing the other businesses down the street have had recent licenses given or permits given to them, there must be something very easy that they can work off of. So, would that be reasonable? A tape survey is a lot cheaper than
it is.
than a regular survey.
One must have been generated when the property was mortgaged. There has to be a tape survey. You want to go by the back property line of the survey, come forward and say that's the front property line?
Or even down the street, the major garage or used car dealership down the street, I'm sure would have to have
Well, he's probably closer than 20 feet to the road, that guy. but-
Yeah.
Do you have a tape survey on that property already? Is there one that's been done?
I don't believe so.
You don't believe so?
I always went by the edge of Summer Street, because we know it's quite wide anyway. And when I was there in 96 to 07, I
Could you come to the microphone, Mr. Kelly, please, and identify yourself?
That's right.
Mike Kelly, co-owner of the property in question. When I was there in 96 to 07 with the license in my name, I pretty much just went from the edge of the Summer Street Road, went in 20 feet, and that's where I parked them. Kept them away, people, plenty of visibility, things like that. And we all know that they're redoing Summer Street. And my brother and I are planning on possibly paving the parking lot to make that look nice. They're talking about sidewalks, green space. So if something had to be done permanently, maybe if we could wait till all that work's done, so we only do something once maybe. I like the idea of the small bumpers.
That's all we're talking about.
It's an open air display. We don't want to start planting shrubs and, I know you said Jersey berries. I know you weren't talking about the 3-foot tall thing, because they need to see it as they're driving up and down the road.
No, yeah.
But
I don't
that-
think we're talking about anything expensive. It
Yeah, no, I understand.
Could be posts with a chain, could be
Yep.
anything.
Like the bumpers are nice. I mean, like I said, it's just,
Anything like that.
it's all for eyesight. You want to keep the visibility wide open.
Yeah, and I don't think that would be too costly.
Right. The area of the land, it's a tad under an acre. The most I had there, I think, I had a license for 70. And I had 50 in there at one time, and there's a lot of room. And there's no problem with someone bringing in even a small Ram truck, pulling it off to the side, unloading it. I did talk to these guys a little bit about some of the things. And they're all into doing it the right way, keeping it clean, no junk, not like the issue we had a short time ago. That's not gonna happen again. That would work.
All right. I'll go with what's the pleasure of the board.
All right, thank you.
Would you be amenable to a tape survey? To find out where your property actually is?
Yeah, I mean, I've got the copies out of the books downstairs that say, it's got 186 feet of frontage.
Right.
I forget exactly how, I mean, we had it surveyed a long time ago because we were gonna put up a building, and everyone's yanked the pipes out of the ground, but I think we changed over the little nail to an orange pipe. And I think they're still in the back on the railroad track banking, so if it's something we can just do with a tape and say, okay, this is the 130 feet from the back, because those were put in place and never touched. In plowing the place, people have knocked them over, thrown them out. I believe the back pins are still in place, because I had Whitman and Bingham working on that years ago, and then we changed our mind about that.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks.
Okay. So does the board want to tape, or are they comfortable going with the building inspector and the applicant working it out?
I personally am comfortable with the building inspector and the applicant working it out, Mr. Chairman.
I am too.
Okay. Hans?
Yeah, I'm fine with that.
All right, I am too, then we'll leave it at that. And with that, I would invite the public to come up and speak. Anybody that would like to speak to this parking? And with that, then since there is nobody who would like to come up from the public, I will ask for a motion.
I'll move that we approve the special permit, Mr. Chairman, as discussed in regards to the operating hours and getting with the building inspector to determine where some sort of separation should be.
I'll
Okay?
second.
Okay, we have a motion, a second, and again, all of the conditions that I read will be in that. And with that, I'll ask for a vote.
Aye.
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 Aye. With that, it's approved, and we wish you good luck with your business.
Thank you. Thank you, one and all.
right here.
Oh, that way. Ready? Then I'm ready. Okay, we are ready to start the second hearing, which is scheduled for 7:30. Again, welcome to the ZBA, and I will tell you how we will proceed. First, I have to give you a notification that this hearing is being recorded in accordance with the requirements of the open meeting law, broadcast over the Lunenburg Public Access. I'll introduce the board members. This is Lisa Normandin, the board secretary. I'm Al Gravel. This is Jim Bezakowski, Hans Winthrop, Paul Doherty, and Sheila Lumi. Lisa will read the application and any other submitted communications. The applicant will have the opportunity for comments on the application or a submission of additional documents. You will please come forward to the mic and give your name and address, and board members will have the opportunity to ask questions they might have on the application while you're at the mic. There will be a public comment period. You please come forward to the mic and give your name and address, and please address all comments and questions to the board. The board will go into deliberation, and there's a special permit, and we have required findings. They are that it will not be injurious or dangerous to the public health or unduly hazardous because of traffic flow, congestion, danger of fire, of explosion, or other reasons. That it will not have a material adverse effect on the value of land and buildings in the neighborhood or on the amenities of the neighborhood. That it will be operated with reasonable regard for order and sightliness if in open use. And that it will not produce noise, vibration, smoke, dust, odor, heat, or glare observable at the lot lines in amounts clearly detrimental to the normal use of adjacent property. And with that, I would ask Lisa to please read the petition.
This is an application for a special permit, Massachusetts General Law, Chapter 40A, Section 9, Zoning Board of Appeals. The name and address of the applicant is Crossstone Realty Limited Liability of 102 Pleasant Street in Lunenburg. The undersigned makes application as follows. The applicant seeks two special permits. One, the use as a contractor's yard under Section 4631J, and two, under Section 8321B4, a side yard reduction to 10 feet, which was the offset of the building that came down in 2014. The proposed replacement building would be in the same location and size as the building that was taken down. The proposed action has not begun. The basis for this application is found in the following section of the Lunenburg zoning bylaw, 4631J and 8321B4. The street address of the property is 802 Pleasant Street in Lunenburg, assesses map 95, parcel 25. Name and address of each holder of legal title to the land, which is the subject of this case, is Crossstone Realty LLC, 53 Westminster Road in Ashburnham, Mass. And the deed is recorded in Worcester Northern District Registry of Deeds, Book 4220, page 50, and recorded June 11th, 2002. If the undersigned has any knowledge of a prior appeal, application, or petition concerning the land or building involved in this case, describe the case and the dates follows. A portion under special permit recorded Book 6707, page 290. This lot was subdivided and the use stayed with 100 Pleasant Street. It is signed on 28th, I'm going to assume September, it just says signed this 28th of 2017 by Joseph Livergood of 102 Pleasant Street. A narrative description for the Zoning Board of Appeals for the special permit application regarding 102 Pleasant Street. The property located at 102 Pleasant Street is owned by Crossstone Realty LLC. The deed is recorded in Worcester Northern District Registry of Deeds, Book 4220, page 6. The existing buildings were constructed in the late 60s and early 70s. The existing structures are a commercial garage and storage building. The buildings are serviced by public water and a subsurface sewage disposal system. The structure was in great need of repair and was damaged in a microburst storm in 2014. The building was removed and inspected by the building official at that time. The owner did not file a formal building permit application within the required 2-year time frame. The property was part of 100 Pleasant Street until November 11th, 2009, when a portion of the property was sold and the special use permit stayed with the 100 Pleasant Street address. The applicant is seeking two special permits. One, the use as a contractor's yard under Section 4631J, and two, under Section 8321B4, a side yard reduction to 10 feet, which was the offset of the building that came down in 2014. The proposed replacement building will be in the same location and size of the building that was taken down. No other changes to the site and use. The responses to the special permit questions 12A through D of the Town of Lunenburg application for special permit, Massachusetts General Law, Chapter 40A, Section 9, So 12A, the proposed use will not be injurious or dangerous to the public health or unduly hazardous because of traffic congestion, danger of fire or explosion or other reasons. The response, the existing structure and use are currently in operation. There is town water and a septic system. The replacement structure will have a concrete foundation and floor and serviced by propane. 12B will not have a material adverse effect on the value of the land and building in the neighborhood or on the amenities thereof. The response, the proposed replacement building will have a substantially greater value than the existing structure that is in disrepair. The replacement building will match better and will provide an improvement to the existing site. Inside storage of materials and equipment will provide a cleaner, quieter site. 12C will be operated with reasonable regard for odor and sight lines if an open use. The response, not an open use. 12D will not produce noise, vibration, smoke, dust, odor, heat, or glare observable at the lot lines and amounts clearly detrimental to the normal use of adjacent property. The response, the proposed use is a commercial garage and workshop. The proposed use will be consistent with the current and adjacent uses in the neighborhood. There will be no negative effect of the abutting uses. The new building will provide for covered indoor workspace for the existing on-site equipment. This will provide a better use of the site. And on September 28th, to the Zoning Board of Appeals and Lunenburg Town officials, the following applicant, Crosstone Realty LLC, Joseph Livergood, wished to submit the Zoning Board of Appeals special permit. And he gives full permission to Stephen L. Marsden, P.E. of Marsden Engineering, Inc., to act as our agent and has full permission to present plans for 102 Pleasant Street. And that's signed by the owner, Joseph Livergood. Also, there's a copy of the assessors map, a list of abutters, which have all been notified 2 weeks prior to the hearing, and the assessors field card, and Mr. Marsden's submitted plans. He also provided a larger plan and has one for you tonight. I received one letter from the Lunenburg Fire Chief, and I will read that. To Mr. Alfred J. Gravel, Chairman of the Zoning Board of Appeals. Dear Mr. Gravel, I am writing to recommend the ZBA decline the request for a variance for 102 Pleasant Street. This is in regards to placing a new structure on the location of a former one which was within the property line buffer. The property line in question is that of the Unitil Peak Shaving Facility. This facility stores upwards of 300 gallons of liquid propane on site, in fairly close proximity to the proposed location for this structure. It should be noted that propane is heavier than air, and any leak would travel downhill and potentially toward the location in question. At the very least, any new structure should be required to meet current zoning requirements and setbacks, not those from many years ago. Also, this department has responded to multiple complaints of illegal burning and improper cutting and welding at this location over the years. Most of these complaints were in close proximity to the former structure or involved the various tenants in it over the years. This is no small concern for our department, given its proximity to the Unitil facility. It should also be noted that only 2 illegal burning incidents were recorded by this department after the failure of the structure occurred. By our records, the building collapsed due to storm damage on September 6, 2011. Requiring the new building to meet current zoning and setback requirements would not completely eliminate hazardous conditions at this location, but it would be a valuable step towards mitigating them. If you have any questions, please do not hesitate to contact me. Respectfully, Patrick A. Sullivan, Fire Chief. And late this afternoon, I received this email from an abutter. Dear Mr. Gravel, unfortunately, I will not be able to make tonight's meeting, but would like to make a few comments. I have no problem with Crosstones Realty's request for contractors yard. I would just hope that the board would issue some setback restrictions on the property. Currently, the contractor has equipment and supplies within 3 to 4 feet of the road. From the road, the yard looks very messy with piles of materials very visible. It would be nice if the contractor could be as good a neighbor as his two contracted neighbors, Mr. Turner and Mr. Proctor. Both Mr. Turner and Mr. Proctor's yards are well organized and set back so that as you drive by, you don't even realize that they are there. Also, I noticed that the contractor is using the 100 Pleasant Street property. Is a special permit allowing both properties to be used as contractors' yards? Thank you, Richard Romano, 189 Pleasant Street. That's all, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Lisa.
You're welcome.
I'm going to invite the building inspector up now, because I think you probably have a little more history. Would you like to speak to this?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Board. My name is Gary Rhodes. I'm the building commissioner. This property is kind of unique in a strange kind of way. The request in front of you is, as shown on the plan, is just for that strip. However, back in 2008, this board granted a construction yard, but not just for this property. It also included the property and the building on the street. So this property was in a different shape at that time, and this board granted a permit to do that. Approximately a year later, the lot was subdivided. And at the time it was subdivided, this board granted a different special permit for the building that is on the upper side of the lot, without the permit for this property being amended. When I looked at it, when I looked at his request, I saw a permit that really didn't reflect what was originally issued. It wasn't the same lot. I really felt that at a minimum, this board should consider, amending that permit, or possibly granting a new special permit, somehow cleaning it up so that it would reflect what this property really is, not half of a permit that was issued 10 years ago. So I just want to kind of bring that to your attention as you move forward in your deliberation here on this one. I can answer any questions that you might have.
Okay, so when it was subdivided, the 100 was the one that we had an application on and granted the special permit to at that time.
The one that was 100 originally included this property here, as well as this property. It's the whole thing. It doesn't show the rest of it. That was the original permit. I have a plan. Oh, perfect. So it did show this property as well as this property. That was the permit that this board issued back in 2008. It wasn't until 2009 when they came back and they separated this lot out, and you issued a new special permit for this, as now being 100. And this became a 102, I believe it was.
Yeah.
So you have a permit in 2008 that encompasses all of this, but now you have an overlaying permit that really encompasses this, which wiped out the special permit for this, or part of it. That's where it got a little confusing when we started dealing with it. That's why when the application in front of you is for a new permit, but just on that one property, not the two together,
Not the
trying to
two.
clean up so that we know what property is what and where the permits are for.
And where is the property line now? Where on that map? I know there was like a 1A and a 1B,
It crosses here. And this one crosses here.
okay,
This is the property here.
okay. I can ask the petitioner. Okay. Does anyone have any other questions for the board?
Yeah, just a quick comment. Sorry to be a pain. You have to bring the microphone when you go over to the couch from now on. We can hear you, the people at home can't hear
Okay,
you.
understood.
Okay, but I do have a question, Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
if I may. In regards to, they want to reconstruct a building that has, and there's apparently a dispute as to when that building collapsed. The fire department says one date, the applicant says a different date, but in either case, that would have been a pre-existing non-conforming, and in order to do that today, you have a time frame to renew a pre-existing non-conforming, so that would be a new application today, in my mind, and they would, in order to put that where they're proposing to put that, would be a totally different use.
They have 2 years in which to rebuild a structure.
Right.
And they didn't exercise it. There seems to have been some discussion possibly with the previous building commissioner, but there are nothing in our files that would indicate any application was ever submitted or a building permit was submitted. There was nothing ever submitted to formalize it.
So it's lost its grandfather. This would
It
be a
lost its
new...
grandfathered, in my opinion, and would
Right.
then have to comply with current setbacks.
Okay, I concur.
The
Thank you,
current
Mr.
setback for that area is 20
But
feet?
It's 15,
15.
15 on the side.
Which building is that on the plan?
Okay, the one that's being requested, I'm sure the applicant will be talking about it, but it's located in this location here.
Right.
So they could build a new building, it just has to meet the current setbacks.
That is correct,
Okay.
yes. But they're here for a special permit for that
To clean up
variation.
everything and,
Yeah,
yes.
and then
yeah.
to build it where, because they're then looking for the special permit, the special use permit for the construction yard, which I feel is somehow compromised, and then another special permit to build it closer to the property line than what
now
otherwise were
allowed.
decided.
So
Got it.
just clarification, you guys said that the contractor's yard was compromised, how so?
Because the permit that you issued
Yeah.
was not for this property, was for a different property.
Right.
So that's why I consider it no longer valid, and, I mean, it's there somehow, but I'm not, how do you
Right.
enforce
Really
something
goes
that
to the
doesn't
other property.
talk about another property?
It-
Okay.
They originally had one.
Yes.
Then they subdivided,
Lost it.
and they lost it when they did that, or kind of lost it, went into a gray area.
Yes,
And now they're back to clear it up.
that's correct.
Okay, thank you.
The same people own the property all this time that they sold off, bought back, sold?
I'd rather let the applicant
Yeah,
answer
maybe.
that, because it's more of his application. I don't want to get
Right.
into the ownership aspects of it.
All right, one last comment. So, aside from the building, the new construction, could you just comment on what you see, what is currently there now, suitability for a contractor's use?
Well, it is, what they're doing there now is, processing stone, which would be part of a contractor's yard.
So do you think it's a suitable site to be used as a contractor's
I
yard?
leave that to the
Yeah,
board.
that's
That's a
not up
special
to-
permit for the board to decide
Oh,
whether
okay,
it's appropriate.
Yeah,
All
that's
right.
not his,
All right, thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thanks for the clarification.
put it this way, it is a commercial piece of property.
Right, well, that's, right.
Okay, and with that, I would invite the applicant to come up to speak to the,
Good evening, Steve Marsden from Marsden Engineering. I have 3 plans, if I could come up and give them so you can look at them.
that would be
Because though
good.
they were small in the application, so I brought
They
them
were
for you
very
tonight so you can look
small.
at them.
Thank you. Oop. It's okay. Can the camera get that there? The camera can get that, right?
He'll tell us.
Is that all right for the TV? Or do I need to move it someplace else?
Good?
Okay.
Okay. If you do go over, though, take the mic with you, it just pulls right out.
I can, good. I was going to ask if I could do that. All right, again, Gary gave you a brief history, but I'll just touch it again to make sure that if you have any questions while I'm standing here, you can ask me. The original property was in an L and was issued that special permit in 2009 for the contractor's yard. Then in 2009, I came before the zoning board and the planning board. We subdivided this lot, this building, and a special permit for the use of this building was sold. The use here hasn't changed, but unfortunately, we didn't pick up on the fact that the special permit was issued to 100 Pleasant Street. The new special permit for the use of this building was issued to 100 Pleasant Street. This became 102. So when I went before Gary to try to do some additional work and get the building permit for this building, Gary identified that through his research and requested that we come before you tonight to get that use straightened out for 102 Pleasant Street. So the plan here shows what is now 102, and that's the plan that you have in front of you, 102 Pleasant Street. The same owner has owned this right along, Crosstone, and then this was sold off to a separate use. The issues with the fire and welding and was a tenant that Crosstone had in there. That tenant currently is not on the site. They were actually indicted by the state and they've left the country. So that tenant is no longer around. Mr. Livergood, who is the owner of Crosstone, has a stone business, and he has another tenant which is occupying up at the top, who will also be leaving. So after next month or two, Mr. Livergood will be the only tenant on the site. So he's looking to continue his use. The building, the discrepancy in those two dates are when it initially fell down and when it was removed. So when it had the damage was as Mr. Sullivan says, and then the building was removed because it kind of partially collapsed, and then it was fully removed in 2014, and that's when the previous building inspector, Mr. Savageau, went down and witnessed the removal of the building. There was no application, so we're not claiming that the 2-year grandfathering is in effect. We're here for a new special use permit for the availability of using the 10-foot offset of the building that was there.
Okay. Now, just ask a question while you're there. You said there was a tenant that was up towards the top. Is that the one that had, I noticed a bunch of trucks parked right up in the top section and then down below?
Yep, they're utilizing this area in here,
Right.
and they're storing some of their stone in here, and they had been actually storing some of their stone in front of the other building.
Okay, I was going to ask you that question because I did go up, didn't go into the property. I was looking at all the stone along the roadway and the stone in there and then the trucks directly behind. So I was wondering, is that part of your business or is that the tenant leaving?
That's the tenant leaving.
So the tenant leaving is the one that does all the stonework?
No, they're both stonemasons.
They're both stone, okay.
Correct.
But they're two separate
Two separate companies. Yep.
companies? Okay. Because I was concerned about all the stone that was along the roadway because it was much closer than 20 feet to the road.
Yes.
There was no setbacks, so it seemed,
That's correct.
okay. And so now it'll be the one tenant down in the back. Now, right now, there's what, a 2-car garage or a 3-car? What is?
Two-car, it's got an office in there and 2 overhead doors.
And is that where they currently do the stone cutting and all of that?
They also have constructed with a temporary structure here with a easy up on it, on the old concrete pad that was there, and they're doing some of the stone cutting in there, and that's what they wanted to put in the new building.
Okay.
Are you saying that someone was operating 2 businesses on the same property at the same time?
He had a tenant, yes.
Okay. Okay, so as we were talking, the original building was torn down, it's over 2 years, it lost its grandfathering, so that's out of the question.
Correct.
So, basically you're here because you want to use that same slab?
Correct.
Is that correct, right?
Yep.
And that's why you're here, and that's why you want to be 10 feet versus 15?
Correct.
Okay, but the lot itself certainly is big enough to be able to meet all the setbacks. In other words, I understand that you would like to use that slab, and I think that maybe you could use, part of it, but even if another 5 feet is what we're talking about.
My reading of the bylaw says it's 20, Gary, so do you have it there?
That's what you have on your table.
What's that?
20 feet side?
I just don't want to have the board approve
Well,
something.
to be honest with you, I thought it was 20 feet as well. In a commercial district, I believe it's 20.
I just don't want to have the board approve something and then have it be,
So while he's looking that up, I'll give you my 2 cents if you don't mind, Mr. Chairman.
No.
I don't know if I'm comfortable giving you a 10-foot variance if you have, only given the circumstances that you lost the grandfather. And quite honestly, the fire chief, when he says, if it can, you can go back to your 20, if it is indeed 20 feet, then, I think you're only at, you're losing 10 feet of slab, but I think it's appropriate because I think it will, from my perspective, get you into, it keeps you current on the zoning, but it also reflects the chief's concern about that gas right next door, the
Sure.
propane. So.
yeah, we didn't have the.
I have no problem granting the new building as long as it meets the setbacks. I don't have an issue with that.
Okay.
I'm not comfortable gonna give you 10 feet when the chief is saying that he has a concern, because that's obviously a public safety issue,
Sure.
so.
We
that's
didn't
my
receive
2
that
cents.
letter until, I think Pat just wrote it today.
And then switching gear on the contractor's yard, I mean, I went down there today and I took a look at it, and so I share the chairperson's sentiment about some of the rocks being on front on, it looks like lot, it would be 100 Pleasant Street, but that's gonna be cleaned up.
Yep.
I'm wondering, whether the applicant or your client would be amenable to putting maybe some fence or something like that to blockade, I don't know. It's just that, once that gets cleared up, that tenant that leaves, does that mean that it's gonna be looking more satisfactory in terms of appearance up front? And more of the work being down below?
The applicant would be amenable to putting in a privacy fence there for you at the setback.
I mean, I don't know, it depends on what the board's saying, but I'm just thinking from the neighbor who was talking about it.
I would definitely require that all the setbacks be held. That, the
Sure.
front, side, all of them.
Yep.
Is there a tenant now?
Is there a tenant?
Yeah, how many people are on? I know you said there's a tenant.
Two people operating there, but the tenant, Neshoba Stoneworks, is leaving.
It will be back down to 1.
Correct.
When is that tenant leaving?
Hopefully by Christmas. He's just getting set up in Ashby.
And is that where all the curbstone is, all the granite curving
All the stuff
and all
that's out
that?
front.
That he brought in.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, you would have to come up, give your name and address and speak.
My name's Joe Livergood. I'm the owner of 102 Pleasant Street.
So he said he'll be leaving by December. and
So is he-
that's all.
Just
Yeah,
all
he's
that-
planning, he's definitely, so what happened was, he does stonework, but he installs. I
Yeah.
mostly buy and sell stone.
Sure.
And so we did some jobs together.
Yep.
But officially, he doesn't have an office there. Now he's moving to Madigan's old place.
Okay.
They're cutting stone there
Yep.
for another guy, so that works out fine.
Okay.
So
It's just,
you-
some of that equipment is his, some of it's mine, so when he leaves, we'll be back down to a smaller company.
Okay. So then from the appearance perspective off of Pleasant Street, a lot of that stonework that's up front it will be gone.
Yeah, I mean, definitely Steve and Bob have, it's really nice from the road, and they have nice buildings. They've done a super nice job. And eventually, once we get money, we can do the same
Yeah,
thing,
yeah.
so.
But your operation, so when I went all the way down there, I think I talked to one of your employees today, you're doing all the cutting down in the very back where you want to put the new
That's right.
structure. Okay.
Yeah. Part of the problem too is with There were some issues in the past, probably the last, what was that, 10 years or whatever, but when we had some renters down there, we had some issues. Mike, I was dealing with Mike. So part of the problem is we already started putting some of the building back with the pits, and if we have to do the setbacks, it's just that we started with permission, we showed them everything we were doing, but if we have to change it, we'll change it.
So those were the forms that I saw then right on the property line there, right? There was.
Yeah, there was some,
work started done.
you know what, we were like, you know what, let's wait for the meeting.
Yeah, no, okay. I noticed that, so.
Yeah.
I think that's all I have, Mr. Chairman, for now.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Yeah, I got a comment, Mr. Chairman. I mean, essentially, if you're willing to build the building within what is currently required, you're only looking for a special permit for a contractor's yard.
That's it.
Because you're gonna build that within, so that kind of goes out the window. You've described the problems as being created by subletters. I don't know if you had a formal agreement with this person who was on your property, who you now were saying is the one who was not a good neighbor and was doing all these unsightly things. So would you be amenable to us including language in, if we would approve your special permit for the contractor's yard, that any other sublease you would have to come back before us before that was permitted?
Yeah, no, that'd be fine, yeah.
I'm just thinking,
It wasn't, so what happened was, we were gonna do like a small partnership, so he was gonna pay to put the building up, he was gonna pay for the materials, I'll put the building up, and then we were gonna do like a 10-year lease. But then you had the money problems, there was no money, so now we're trying to resolve that.
Right.
Otherwise, we could've had the permit January last year, but I didn't see any money, and I don't wanna start at something if I don't have any money.
Right. And just one last comment, it was kind of hard to come before us to ask for a structure, but yet you provided no blueprints for a structure. So there's nothing we could see to conceptualize what you're looking to put down there in order for us to give you permission to put that down there.
Yeah, and again, we were looking at several different types of saws to buy, and we basically were gonna fit the building around the saw.
So basically, it's a big shed, it's not a quarter.
Yeah, no, this is
Okay.
pretty big, yeah.
I got you.
That's why, the way we started, there is a saw there, and it's actually made to fit inside the other new building.
Right.
So, and like I said, the whole time we went over everything, but like I said, we can move the building, we can put it next to the block building. Right here.
Right.
It's not as ideal,
But it would get you within what you need to meet, okay.
yeah. And it also helps with the noise. The one saw that we have running now, it's not my saw. It makes some noise, but the saw that I'm looking to get, we're gonna probably put it right in here. We're gonna put the saw in first, and then as we get the money, we're gonna put a building around it. But it's a wire saw. It doesn't make nearly as much noise.
Right.
So.
All right, thank you, Mr. Chairman.
You're welcome. Any other questions from the board or the applicant here? Okay.
If I have one other thing, I have no problem putting up a fence. Like I said, I have really good neighbors, and if we can put up a fence. My problem is I don't own that much land. I can't afford to lose too much land. So if I can put a fence up.
I don't think, I don't think you have to put a fence.
think-
If your tenant is leaving and you keep it neat and clean, I'm satisfied with that.
I think if you're going to hold the setbacks, like I say, the concern was, as Hans and myself mentioned, the amount of stone along the street, which was clearly, in violation of the setbacks. If you're going to clean that up, if that tenant's going, but I don't know if you've still given us a time frame on when that tenant's leaving.
December, he said, I think.
You think December?
Well, I'll just say January.
I was going to say.
Better say January
Could that
right now.
stretch into spring and?
Yeah, you know what? I can definitely stay in touch with Gary. Whatever, I mean.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean.
But I definitely, at some point, I think
They would have, when we granted it, and I don't know because nothing's come up, no motions have been made, but we would hold you to the setbacks, which means that you would be in violation if you were in there, left it there. So you would have to take it out, clear those setbacks. Even if you had to do it and, like he left it there, you'd still have to clear it. The other question I had now is, when you're in the building, which we've already talked about, in a sense, which I think what you're telling us is, you're going to be buying, and as you grow your company, and certainly you hope your company grows and profitable, it sounds like you're going to be buying new equipment. It sounds like, I know that your answer to the, if an outside use, and of course you store most of the stone outside, and I'm sure you use equipment to move it around. So there is some noise factor there, but I'm sure that, most of your, or a lot of your noise, if you're going to be putting equipment indoors as you build a building, it's going to take that, deaden all that noise and get rid of a lot of that. And with new equipment that you're talking about buying, that also, I know new equipment today is much quieter and much faster than probably what you're using today. So all of those things would help.
Yeah, I think, like in 08, when the economy tanked, I had to sell the building up top to pay off lines of credit. So it wasn't until this spring, beginning of summer, that debt's finally paid. So this, being able to get a loan to buy the saw, to move forward, to get things cleaned up, definitely is the direction we want to go. And that's why we're here. That's why I got Steve to help me.
Right.
It's painful. I mean, it's a lot of money.
Sure.
So we just got the power, the permit, so they got to hook the power. Because I had my water and my power came through here. And then when I sold that, I had to cut it. So we haven't had any power since I sold it. And Steve gave me a variance or permit to put the pole in so I can go over his property. And but we just got the 480, so we just have to get it hooked up to Unitil. So.
Okay.
But I think at some point, I do need to put some kind of a fence up here. I'm gonna probably dig this a little bit more. It's just, my property, everything I do is so close to the road.
Now, who do you, when you're cutting all the stone, doing all the stone, you don't sell it to the public, do you, or do you? Is it
Rarely,
sold?
mostly wholesale accounts.
Mostly you sell it to
Yeah, we just
wholesale?
trucks, a lot of the stone doesn't even show up on site. We ship it direct out of the fields.
Yeah, yeah.
But the more we can process, it just gives us a
The more value.
Yeah.
Okay. That's really all I have. Anybody else? I would invite the public, anyone that would like to come up and speak.
My name is Bob Proctor. I own 110 Pleasant Street, and I live at 99 Pleasant Street. I have no problem with Joe working down in the back here. My house is literally right here. So I have to overlook everything that's being done in the top here, down over the banking, and then obviously everything that's next to the street. I mean, I would like to see Joe come off of here and put a fence here. For two reasons. One, obviously, to block the stones, piles, and everything else. Secondly, the way the land is set, this all slopes downhill, and it goes down to two other properties and then out to John Fitch Highway. The prevailing wind comes from John Fitch Highway, and as it comes, and it literally blows all the time. And it blows all the way up through here, and all the traffic that comes in and out of his driveway, plus whatever parking and everything that's up here, just blows into my house. And I can't keep my windows open because of the dust. And most of the dust comes from the traffic going in and out. So my second suggestion would be to try to do something to the driveway to eliminate the dust. Whether Joe paves it, whether Joe keeps calcium chloride on it. There's a number of things that he can do. Eliminate most of the traffic, because what happens is, and I don't know if it's Joe's employees, if it's Mark Manchester's employees, if it's the other stone company, but there's always people that are parked up here waiting for rides, waiting for second cars to show up. So you can well imagine at 6 o'clock, 5:30 in the morning, I've got 2 or 3 vehicles shining lights directly into my house. And thirdly, Sundays. Sunday, I work 6 days a week. Sunday's my only day off, and they're working here all day Sunday. It starts early in the morning and goes till late at night, literally 8, 9, 10 o'clock. So I think that a restriction on Sunday would be very helpful to me.
Okay.
Other than that, good luck to them.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Would anybody else like to speak?
Hi, Steve Turner, 104 Pleasant Street. I own the property to the south and to the west of Joe's property. Joe's been there probably better part of 20 years, Joe? Close, I guess 15 to 20. It's been a tumultuous relationship. Some of his, as the history of it goes with some of his previous tenants, and obviously that's history. I gave him an easement 2 years ago to get power. I'm all for small businesses. I'm a small business, Bob's next to me. We own property and did it together at one time. Many things have occurred over at the property next door, and Joe and I have talked extensively. Mike Savageau was involved in many of the discussions or came in, is this okay with you, Steve? You know, Joe and I talked the other day, I think for about a half hour, 45 minutes. What are you trying to do? And obviously he had that relationship with the gentleman with the building that he's doing. It's a small piece of property. Obviously, you as the chairman and Mr. Winter, you went down and looked, it went right by my door of my office. I've got some concerns. Not that I want to stop them. I like small business. That's what makes us go. The dusters, as Bob alluded to, where you go down the driveway, that, because he hasn't got good gravel base, he does so much with the stone cutting and the dust, that's a problem for my office and showroom. I don't know if we can come up with some sort of simple buffer to keep that. I can't keep my door open, and I'm not air conditioned. I'm just, you know, I'm in a basement of actually, as you saw there. That's one concern I have. A couple things that have come up, and Joe and I talked, he said, I want to do it right. Steve Marsden did my engineering too. So he's a good engineer. That's why I hired him to get my property when I had to go through a site development plan. It cost me a lot of money. But I had to do it according to the planning board and the provisions provided for me. And I think I've done pretty good. I've probably never had a complaint from my particular business. There's some things that Joe and I talked about, you know, the saw, as he said, the one that's leaving, thank God, that's an irritating sound all day long. And it's probably 10 or 12 hours a day. But getting back to some of the other things as we've talked, and I know I've been there 34 years. When we were all 100 Pleasant Street. Now we're all our own separate, we're a little community. I was suspicious, and I know everything that's been done to that property since I've been there since '84. I had to ask him again because they do not have a bathroom facility. There isn't. I call the water district. I know Franny. Is there any water on 102? No. The water came through, and I remember how it was done. It was through 100 to the back building. So a concern I had, and he took care of it, I said, you gotta get a porta potty in here. And he's done it on different occasions. They had a lot of people running around, not nearly as many. But to bring it up to standards, I'm going to probably be putting my property on the market in a year or two. And I don't want to devalue my property any more than it already is. It's not as good as it is. If we could just look into that. I gave him, back Mike came to me so he could subdivide that lot. We traded land. I believe Steve did the engineering. And I wanted him to be able to sell that. He came to me and told me what the problem was. I said, absolutely. And Steve did the engineering. We swapped some land. But I think, just being a good neighbor, I had to upgrade all mine. And I think just for the good of our whole little community, if you will, Bob has done like so. We've spent an awful lot of money to keep our properties. We're in respective businesses that are similar or not similar. And we're all small businessmen. I don't have a problem with Joe running a business. Some of the rocks, when they drop it, I think we're having an earthquake. It doesn't happen on a daily basis, obviously. But at this time, I never came to a board. Mike was good to work with. I've never met this gentleman before. But we worked it out more or less, Joe and I, there's no big, hey, Joe, can you make an adjustment here, this? And he's gone through, I think, his tumultuous part with all difficult tenants. That was the biggest problem that I saw. So I just wanted, it was a public hearing, voice some concerns, and hope Joe can, everything will make it work out for him.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, Jim.
Steve, you said that he doesn't have a bathroom or something?
Well, there's no water.
It says in his letter, it says it has public water and a private septic system.
Call the water district. I did.
Okay.
And you asked Franny. I talked to Franny. I'm going to be honest, should have water there.
Right.
Thank you, Steve.
Some of these things that you brought up, a lot of that stuff, we're looking at a
Sure.
construction yard.
But
Some
that's
of
the only
those things
thing-
are before us, some of these things are gonna be before the planning board,
Sure.
as you know,
I
because you
know, I've
just
been
said
there,
you've
yes.
been there before.
So I just brought it up, just so things, hey, I'm all for them upgrade, it'll only help me.
Right.
And if you have people working.
And I would actually invite the applicant back up to address some of these issues, if you would, that your neighbors have brought up.
When the subdivision occurred, one of the requirements was that we install a new septic system for the building, because it has to stay on its own lot. You can't share leach fields between the two. The old leach field for this building is in this location here. So there was a new leach field put in for there. The water line comes in on this lot and goes over to this building, and there's a tap off here. We're in discussion with the water district to straighten those taps out and get separate gates, but there is water on the lot because the tap actually comes in onto this lot. So we're working that out with Franny at the water district.
Okay.
So that'll get taken care of to the water district's satisfaction. As far as the dust and Mr. Proctor's concerns, we talked about that, and the applicant said that they would be willing to put in a privacy fence, which will stop that wind and stop a lot of that dust from going across the street. And if there was a 50-foot paved apron right at the street, he was more than willing to do a 50-foot paved apron right at the street.
Okay, so you, right now, if we condition a fence, you have no problem with the fence along the front, so that the neighbor across the street, that the dust and all of that won't go.
The headlights, yep.
Which is good, but what about the driveway?
Right now it's gravel, so similar to your driveway bylaw, the first 50 feet off the pavement, so we'd put in a paved apron.
Say it again, please.
Put in a paved apron.
A paved apron. Would it be cheaper to do like 3/4 inch like stone, 50 feet?
Yep.
I mean, I don't personally, I don't think it has to be pavement if it's less.
Or regrind.
Yeah.
We can get regrind.
Whatever.
Yep.
I mean, you could try
Yeah.
one aspect, the cheaper aspect, and see if it works.
The regrind would be, we can get access to the regrind from the
Yeah.
paving jobs.
I mean, it seems like you have pretty good neighbors, and you're a good neighbor, and if you can work it out, it's less money out of your pocket.
Absolutely.
I have no issue with that. Helps the
Yeah,
dust
I
down,
think-
and then with that, with the fence.
Could there be a dust screen put somewhere in the vicinity of where Steve's property is, the woodworking shop, to stop some of the dust from going in where his door is, or something, so he could possibly leave that open sometime for ventilation and other things? I wouldn't think you'd need much for a dust screen.
Yeah, Joe and Steve have talked before, and if you wanted to, they can, I think the two of them can probably figure out how to get something.
I just want,
Yep.
Attention, that's
Right.
all, and we talked
Right.
before, just to...
I wouldn't know what to propose to you tonight that would solve
No, it's a
both of
big area.
both of their concerns, but certainly as Steve said, Joe and Steve, they've all been neighbors for quite a few years, and so the idea here is to make everybody be good neighbors.
Right.
Yeah, I don't know if this would work or not, but I know like, in a lot of ski areas and stuff, they put like double fences. One fence would be down below. And I'm not talking a big expensive fence, but they put a fence where it kind of just breaks up the wind and the dust.
Yep.
And then another fence further up. So there could be one kind of like behind where the sheds are now. And then another one, at the setback right off of Prospect Street. And I'm not talking, like you say, big expensive fences. I'm just talking enough to try and break it up and keep, satisfy your neighbors with their
Yeah.
issues.
I think one of the things too is, last year, I had the guys hand sweep, so sometimes you get a little bit of dust on top of the gravel. We've swept this area, we have some of it in concrete, but in the last couple of years, every now and then we'll sweep the gravel, there's like a little fine dust, and we just haven't done it this year.
Okay,
That definitely helps.
yeah.
But, and hopefully we'll get more concrete. Like I said, we poured this whole area, the original building was there, we poured more concrete, and then last year, I think we poured this whole section here. Because then it's easy to sweep up, because we're on gravel, so it makes it a little bit tough. But I did talk to Fran a few times, and I did talk to Bob about, the issue here is that there is a tap here that used to feed all our properties. And what happened was, when I took this building down, I had to keep the fire system going in here, so I put in a new main line to come in here with no intent I had no intent of selling the place. So the problem is the water main is almost on Bob's property. I literally have to cut the road in half, like shut the road down just to get it in. And when I was talking to Fran, I said, well, listen, can we just have one gate for this and one gate for mine? And what he wants is the gate out in the street. And that's what's kind of causing a problem, because if I could just put the power, if I could just tap into here, I could do that. It's on my property. I could have Bob help me do it, just a tapping it in. I do have a bathroom in here. I spent quite a bit of money when I brought all the water and power through this building down, then I put in a bathroom. And it has its own system, was a pre-existing system with a pump, but we don't have the water. And just to get into the street, it's like $5,000, $4,500 just for the permit, plus to tap it. That could be, I don't know, 10 or 15 grand just to get into the street. I just don't have that kind of money.
Okay.
So, if I could get a special permit, if it's possible, just to tap in here, I could have the water in pretty quick. And then the bathroom would be fine, because it's a brand new
Right.
bathroom.
Okay. That really is the planning board is gonna determine that.
The water department, they don't have that. So, I think
so
the crux of that is that he is working with the water department, the water district, and whatever it is that the district requires is what it is he's going to have to do.
Okay. So again, we're talking about I don't think we've come up with what you're gonna do with the driveway, but you are gonna try and mitigate the dust there. We can condition a fence, we can condition that you will try to mitigate the dust from the driveway. Those were put in the conditions into whether we grant it or not. If a motion's granted, they'd be conditioned. The other thing, we haven't heard what your hours really are, operating hours, lighting, all of those issues.
What are your hours now, Joe?
Do you work 7 days a week? He said that there's a lot of
Yeah, most of the, the Sunday issue stuff is my tenant running the saw. I mean, sometimes I'm down there on Sundays, but I'm usually just kind of doing stuff around. I usually try not to make any noise, but usually during the week, usually someone shows up around 6:30, to get things opened up.
So are your normal hours Monday through Saturday, Friday?
Yeah, Monday through Friday.
Monday through Friday?
Yeah.
And you usually start at 6:30?
Yeah, usually one person starts, yeah.
And what time do you usually finish for the day?
It varies. I'd probably say 5, 6, something like that.
So,
6 to 6?
Yeah,
so basically 6 to 6.
yeah.
So if we gave you those hours,
With the new saw, you're gonna wanna work Saturdays.
Yeah, the only thing is the saw that we're getting is, it's a saw that can actually work it's CNC, so it'll work at night.
It'll work
on its
at
own.
night.
And like I said, it's much quieter. The intent is to put it inside of a building.
well, I was gonna say, that would have to be something, I could guarantee that would have to be in a building. I mean, there are lots of companies that have CNCs, machines that run all night, and you can hardly hear them. If they're in a building, you can't hear them at all, certainly. And I would suggest, if you're gonna get that and run it at night, that it definitely be inside a building.
Okay.
But, your plan is to build a building, that's part of why you're here. Okay, so as far as lighting in your lot, what do you do at night? Is there any lighting? Is there anything so you have no lighting?
No, he's not there at night.
Okay, so you, during the winter, you have to work less, right? Okay, so your hours of operation, 6 to 6, Monday through Friday. What about Saturday? Do you sometimes work a Saturday?
Generally, no, that's usually the day I go to church, so,
Okay.
that's why
But
sometimes. I
none
might
of your
come in
employees, you're not there, nobody works?
Sunday. Well, they're not supposed to be.
Okay,
'Cause- yeah.
so closed on Saturday?
Not have them, we're not gonna give you Sunday hours, but you can certainly ask for Saturday hours, in my
Yeah.
opinion.
I'll go 6 to 6 on Saturdays.
Yeah, that's fine.
What's that?
6 to
Yes,
6.
6 to 6 on Saturdays. So Monday through
Okay,
Saturday.
and
Nothing on Sunday.
nothing on Sunday?
Yep.
Closed.
Okay.
Okay. Any other things pertaining to the actual construction yard?
I guess I want to point out that now, if we in fact approved a special permit,
What's that?
if we approve this special permit for the contractor's yard, and we're approving no Sunday hours, he has to tell his tenant no Sunday hours, once we approve that.
That is correct.
As long as the applicant's aware of
That
that.
is correct.
There'll be no more work on Sunday once we approve this.
So if you have a tenant that's doing that, which tenant really shouldn't be there anyway, but that's another
Once you get your
story.
other saw and you put your building in.
Right,
You can always
but-
come back.
We're just letting you know from here on, once that approved, if in fact that's approved, there's no more Sunday hours.
You can reapply for changes.
Yeah, as you go along, as your business grows, if you need to come back here, you can, but that's down the road. Okay, does anybody have anything else? What's that? Gary, do you have anything more you would like to?
Yeah, I'd like to stand corrected, the setback is 20, not 15, as I previously stated, with your consideration.
Okay, thank you. Okay, they are asking for two, the setbacks and the construction yard, so I am going to ask that we address both of them.
Given the fire chief's concerns, we'll withdraw the application for the 10-foot setback.
Okay.
So we're just looking now for the use.
Contractor's yard.
Yes.
Okay, so the applicant has asked to withdraw.
I'll make a motion that we accept the withdrawal.
Second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. So all we're considering is the construction yard. So with that, I will hear a motion.
I'll move that we approve the special permit for the contractor's yard.
with conditions.
with the conditions
The conditions
that
of
we
the
spelled
hours,
out, yeah.
I'll second.
with the condition of the fence,
Right, the fence, the paving, the no Sunday.
mitigation of the dust as
Right.
best they can and with the driveway.
Yeah, I would say that, for the paving, that, whatever they decide.
Well, okay, whatever, you want to just make it dust mitigation on the driveway?
Yeah, an attempt to
Okay.
do something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And again, hopefully, it seems like you're all good neighbors, it seems like you all want to be good neighbors, so hopefully, you can work this out, and take care of their concerns, and it seems like you're willing to, so. So we have a motion, do we have a second?
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Aye. With that, I have to read one more thing. The special permit has been granted. It's granted with the contingency that the petitioner comply with all licenses, regulations, statutes, and ordinances of any and all applicable local, state, and federal boards or agencies with jurisdiction over the premises. The special permit is subject to periodic review by the permit granting authority or the enforcement officer to ensure compliance with any conditions. Non-compliance to such conditions may result in revocation of this permit. A copy of the board's decision shall be filed with the town clerk within 14 days. Any party aggrieved by the board's decision may appeal to Superior Court within 20 days after decision is filed with the town clerk. After certification by the town clerk that 20 days have elapsed since the decision was filed, you should have it recorded in the Registry of Deeds. No special permit shall take effect until it has been recorded. This special permit shall lapse within 2 years unless substantial use or construction has commenced. And with that, we wish you luck.
Thank you very much.
Good luck.
Good luck.
You want these back? Mr. Marston, do you want these back?
You need for the record, or?
We need one. We would like to.
Oh, okay.
You're welcome.
Pull that one out of the hat.
Motion to adjourn?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.